Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. And we have everyone in attendance. Mr. Tinas, Mr. Strumdahl, Mr. Dolan. We have the liaison with the assembly, Kurt Wallhuter, Mr. Funt, Mr. Martin, and Mr. Reed, and myself. And we have one person in the audience, Mr. Murgis. Okay, so we need approval of the minutes for the regular meeting. The last meeting we had was in October? Wow, it's been a while.
The end of October.
End of October.
Yeah.
I know.
So,
I make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes of the last meeting we had. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, does anybody want to amend the agenda for today, the meeting agenda, or we'll entertain a move to adopt it as written, as a guide? That's better, I like that better, adopt it as a guide. Anybody have anything?
I'm okay with it. Do we need to move that, or is that?
We just have to
Have to make a motion.
make a motion to accept it.
I move that we accept the agenda as written.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
We have no
Opposed?
sound.
Okay. Okay, we've got our agenda approved.
Let's quickly get to some of the dicier stuff before they get the sound on. I'd say $4 a foot for that drive down dog. All in favor?
Wait a minute.
Okay, before we get started, I just want to, I rather would conduct the meeting to where we can just do a loose discussion so we can get through things quicker. If it gets out of control, we'll just stop, and then, and if somebody does raise their hand, they will be the next person to be recognized. So if everybody's good with that, we'll just do it as normal. I'd rather have discussions, we can get through, if that's okay with everybody.
Sounds good.
Okay, so visitors' views unrelated to the agenda. Does anybody in the visitor section over there, they have anything other than what's on the agenda that they'd like to talk about?
Is budget on the agenda?
Yes.
Oh.
I'll wait for that section.
Okay. Any views related to the agenda?
All right. My name's John Murgis, and on the budget, just the usual request for more, better grading of the Scott Bay turnaround. Maybe less grading of the entire turnaround, and just, 90% of the important is the ramp approach. And maybe we could spend less money on grading the whole works, which is just used recreationally mostly by dog people and kids that go in there and do weeds and so forth. But the ramp approach itself, it's lots of public use, and I don't know if we could concentrate on that a little bit more. When the city comes in and does the entire ramp, they do a marvelous, the entire path, they do a marvelous job, but it's a big, big task. They're there pretty much for the whole day. And so I don't know how that could be budgeted to have more grading of just the straight approach to the ramp.
I think that would be in our budget. It would be in the city's or the borough's budget.
It's in our budget now to do the entire grading, and we have an ongoing working relationship with Public Works that, when they kind of get time, when it's, right, and they go out and do it, but, we're on quite a bit to.
Is it in pretty bad shape?
maintain it.
Pardon?
In pretty bad shape right now?
Well, no, but it gets a lot of public use, and right now, they're in bad shape because it's breaking up.
Should have bought the grader.
And it has gotten in bad shape at times.
We address it.
And so, maybe working arrangement or use my loader there for the small jobs and just get a pile of dirt there or something to fill in those holes. Could work. I'm just kind of soliciting ideas that give that some thought.
You're talking about the ramp underwater, gotta do it.
I know
Low tide?
that's holding up well.
Oh,
Of course, that's just been, the concrete portion's just been resurfaced.
Oh.
And then the portion after the ramp, I've been maintaining with the help of PEDC, bringing in some dirt, and I spread it, and that's been holding up real well. So, no problems back there. And then the only, I haven't studied your rate sheet too much, so I'm not sure exactly what the intent is of the change of rate, but I've got the impression that it applies primarily to the less than annual mortgage fees. And the only thing I want to say there is the, for instance, in my yard, I have several vessels, commercial vessels that have come in from Sitka and Wrangell that are now home porting basically in Petersburg. And they don't stay in the water all the time. They're probably getting 6-month permits, dockage, and then 6 months in my yard. And my goal is just to see more vessels home port here, whether or not they stay in my yard. And I think if you home in only on that group of users who are just want to be in the water for 6 months, change their rates, it might be you might lose more than you gain by raising the rates. And so, I just want to be a partner with the community here to bring in more people to home port. And it's working out well. This is, my boatyard is one of the few in Southeast that has affordable dry land rates in space. And so it's kind of I think an asset to the community to have that. I don't want to chase people away unnecessarily. That's about it.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Bob?
What would be a month amount you think would be a place to break that down? Like, it's 6 months now, is it 6 months, it's $5, you're bumping it
No,
up to
currently
$5?
it's 3 months.
Oh, and you're gonna,
We would like to bump it up to 6 months and change the rate. I mean, we'll get to that, but like you read here, yeah.
Okay,
We want
let's-
to raise the rate for people that are not year in, year round.
okay, well, I guess we'll talk about it when they do the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we'll give you another chance to join in too when we get to
Okay,
that
I might
discussion.
have to leave early.
Okay,
So-
okay, well, we can kind of get your.
And the other point on that is, you home in just on one group, it usually leads to some discontent and complaints more so than across the board stuff.
Okay, thanks. Is there any other visitors' views related to the agenda, or rather wait until we get to that subject?
We can get to that.
Okay. Okay, the Harbor Masters report.
Okay, it's kind of short this time. Lots of maintenance going on that we were kind of unexpected because of the nice weather. All the oil containment tanks have all been done, and we've been working on finishing up that fish cleaning station. We're gonna get that done by the end of February, so we're just down to the end of that. Today we just got delivery of the UHMW for the North Harbor. Boys are picking that up as we speak, and we'll finish. If you remember, it's the yellow, the stuff that we felt we could do in-house rather than having the contractor do. So it's they're instead of in the loading zone area, we're gonna do our own UHMW with in yellow, so we don't have to continually paint things. So we got a good deal on some repurposed UHMW. North Harbor, talked a little bit about that. Drive down project, things, all the parts and pieces are here. Hamco is putting, working on the final assembly. It's worth a trip out there if you're out for a drive, just to go take a look at it. They're working on the sub deck right now, and figure it'll take them about 10 days to put all the decking down. Pretty intricate the way they lay it out so that it is staggered. The transfer float arrived, and they had to pull it out of the water to attach the zincs because it had already met the DOT limits for taking it down the highway, so they had to get it out and attach the zincs because it would have been too wide with that, as well as doing some finishing on it. So the T. Bailey's going to be up here, send up one of their specialists to finish that here, hopefully this next week. And we're on budget on that. We haven't had any cost overruns. We're negotiating right now with Tamaco. They're of course late, $1,500 a day, but there's other things to take into consideration. So we'll work through that. But anyway, we're looking good on the budget. We still have 1.3 available. The crane, maximum performance, things are going well there. I hope that they'll be done here in the next day or so and hopefully get it on the barge shipped back to us next week so we can have it in place by the following week. Don't think it'll take that long to install it because everything's poised, ready to go. We've got the bolts here, the new bolts. We've got the wiring is plumbed in, ready to attach. And Bear Electric is working on that for us. And it's considerably less than what a brand new one would have cost. So we're shooting for between 40 and 42,000 by the time it's good. The shipping and the installation is all calculated up. I'll speak a little bit under the budget review for upcoming projects, but the Borough Assembly okayed Alan Murph to do a little engineering for us on the old North Harbor approach. You know, part of that approach was built in the 30s, and another part of it was built in the late 50s, and tough shape. And I've had to flag off part of it, so we're having him look at it and use our surplus and salvage materials. I met with him this morning, and he was really impressed with what we have available. So he's going to put that into his design to use what we have on hand. So hopefully we'll just be out the installation and the construction portion, and if we can get the big work done, the pilings put in, the beams set up, I think we can probably put the decking on in-house. We can order that and put that on in-house. So anyway, that's one of those kind of interesting little projects. Homeland Security vessel had a new shore power system installed. Homeland Security paid for it, and that was thanks to the PD. They worked on that for us. Also, the landing craft gate winch was replaced, and Rocky also did the servicing on the engines while it was out of water last week.
Excuse me, what happened to the gate?
The winch just broke down, and it froze up, and yeah, you know, it's one of those things that when you need it, you need it.
Right.
So yeah, we were having to do it by manual, and so it currently didn't have that kind of a setup, so we were looking at Rockies to have a manual system put in as well. So if this happens again, we can override it. Finance department is working with on our billing system. We're doing a new bookworking system that will be the same as the other utility bills. We really like this company that is doing the borough-wide computer part of it, and we currently have a system that we developed years ago, and it's been getting less and less attention and costing us more and more. So anyway, so Jody's been working with us on that, and we're gonna do a little bit of a trial here in February, and hopefully it'll work and it'll be seamless.
Will they be doing the billing then?
We're doing our own billing. They will be able to take money like they do now. It's just that it's all in the same company rather than this other company that we've been using. So no, nothing will change, and that we'll still be in charge of our financial end of it, but they'll just be able to help us, assist us with it. Recycling, Carl's really jazzed to try and get that option availability to the harbor users. Sounds good on paper, but I just have a hard time really seeing how we're going to implement it. So we're taking baby steps this year. We offered opportunity to boat owners to do the blue bag system and bring it to us. He would like to have us purchase a cardboard recycle container, and you know, they're around $6,000-7,000 to put out in the South Harbor and kind of be more of a community drop-off. I'm a little nervous about it, but we're working through it. So I'll keep you posted on that. And of course, back to the recycling thing, what's a benefit to us is then we don't have to pay for this, the
The weight of that
cardboard,
trash.
the weight, yeah. So, if it's in an ideal world, it'd be great because it'd help us our bottom line, but I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of holes in the scenario. So, athlete activity, everybody's in good shape, it's moving along, there's activity. I got a hold of PDOA early on about our drive down and our crane situation, and the boys have been accommodating, and I haven't heard any screaming about, last minute type of thing. I'm sure there will be, but, we've been on the radio about it. And I did talk to Charles Davis about our backup to the backup plan could be, for some amount of money, he could sit down there for an 8-hour day for the week prior to the loading. I looked back in our records to see where the biggest amount of time was that saw the most use of the crane dock. And anyway, but so far it hasn't. He was good with that, but so far I don't think we're gonna need to do that. But we'll see. We kind of got him with a backup plan. That's it. That's all I have.
Any questions?
I have one question. Gloria, Ann, with this new finance department taking over part of the billing, is that the reason for the increase on the budget there for the overhead
They're
charges?
not taking over the finance. They are currently assisting us in setting our.
So there's no
computer
fiscal
system
note
up.
attached to this transition?
No.
Okay.
It is, it's
all
just
I
the
wanted.
cost of
Yeah.
doing business downstairs is
Okay.
on the rise. So we
Perfect.
pay a percentage of that, as does all the enterprise funds to help support downstairs.
And that's our overhead charge here?
That's our overhead
Okay.
charge of about 77,000 this
Good,
year,
yeah.
which is up,
Yeah, little, yeah.
about 10,000 in the last.
Yeah. I think it looks like 4 or something from
I
last
have
year.
one question about the engineering on the old approach at the North Harbor. Is he gonna design like an added piling possibly, so that one part that sticks out, we can extend that out a little further?
As we have learned in our construction or in our design, that it's always good to add added alternates. So
Exactly.
he is going to add an added alternate of another additional 10 feet. We can afford it if we bid this out and it comes back doable. I'll talk about it in our budget, but I put in 150,000. If it's something that we can afford and go another 10 feet, yeah, we'll definitely add that. He's going to permit the whole thing. So.
Because there's that one piling that sticks out further.
Yeah, all of that's going to have to be removed.
Okay.
Yeah, that is in such tough shape. I think I sent some pictures around to you. Yeah, it's not good.
Okay, any other questions for Glow? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the unfinished business, which there isn't anything there. So we don't have any unfinished business, I guess we took care of it, whatever we had. So, new business, rate increase review for the commercial drive-down dock permit, transient rate, and semi-annual mortgage rate.
Well, I have in the packet the proposed, this is coming before you, it's coming before the public, then it makes its way to the assembly. These are some things I've been thinking about. We need to raise a little revenue. If you jump down the agenda and you look at our budget, we need to raise a little revenue, and we're putting this brand new facility. So starting with number one, we're putting in a brand new facility, the commercial drive down dock and ramp, and we have costs associated with that. We figure that between the lights and the garbage, it's going to run us about $16,706 if you calculate out what we get charged for those light poles out there from PMPL and what we get charged by the garbage to pick up the 13-yarder. That's what we estimate the charges. So I can either go out and raise rates for the entire harbor to capture those costs, or we could put forth the idea of a use permit. And so I'm quoting this by you. Here's some numbers. The annual permit, if we said we first thought about the idea of, well, if we just charged everybody $100, you know? Well, then I got a little feedback and said, yeah, but what about the big guys versus the little guys? They only take up this much real estate. Okay, that, yeah, made sense. So then we tossed around the idea of having a number. So if we say charge $2.50 per year per foot, this is what you'd be looking at. I went through, in the parentheses, I went through kind of our fleet and just on the back of a napkin figured out how many I figured that would get this, or how many it would affect, and these are the numbers that we came up with. It's not every single boat over 58 feet. It's not, you know, we try to be a little common sense about it. So those are the numbers that we have. And then we thought, well, what if you have a guy that's going out to Point Agassiz and needs to load a bunch of lumber, or you have a out-of-town fish boat that needs to come and have some work done, or that kind of thing. How do we deal with that? So we thought, well, a one-time use of $1 a foot. Thinking that would be easy math for them. Gosh, I'd only have to use it 2-3 times before it just makes more sense to get an annual permit. So we've priced out for a couple $100. We can have one of these permits similar to what most people are used to seeing. Our style of permit is, this happens to be a skiff permit, but we also use them for launch permits. We issue you this, you're written in a book, kind of like how we do everything, and you hang this under your triangle so we know where to find it, you know, and just like we know every single, I mean, I can tell you when a boat comes into the harbor if he has a permanent stall or not, and that's 500 and 600 boats. I can tell you pretty much if you got a permit, and if not, here's the list of those people that have already gotten a permit. If not, we see them on the camera. That's our job. We're here 24 hours a day. That's one more thing we look for. You know, if you see a boat that doesn't belong or doesn't have a permanent stall in the harbor, you know, we write it down and we charge them the transient rate. It would be similar to that kind of a situation. We contact the person and say what's the plan and the rules for doing business in Petersburg. So, you know, that's the first one. And I don't know if you want to talk about each one of these individually, or if you want me to go through the whole.
I'd kind of, well, you know, if we're going to go, say, an annual permit or something, and there's going to be time constraints, like you got a 4-hour, you can be there for 4 hours, unless you're going to have, like, Ole come down and do work on it, and then that's going to be something else.
That's also on your agenda, commercial drive-down procedures, and I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. I got a lot of those procedures off of Ketchikan's and off of Osbay's, more similar to what we have versus what Sitka has, which is part of their loading zone kind of a situation. So, this permit would not give you carte blanche. You get to now live there. You get the opportunity to use it and follow the rules, is the way I would look at it.
Yeah, the UHMW they have for that drive down, I think, is all yellow. So it'll be like a loading zone all the way around. That would be something we'd have to consider as far as if there is going to be a project going on there.
Yeah.
We would have to take into.
And I think that's under the proposal. We talked about having the insides, the 2 inside tie-up spots are 61 feet long. We've got them set up with power stations, so that's our project area when it needs to be.
And that's where the crane will go eventually.
Pre-scheduled, you know, at some point, you know, you gotta get on a list. You can't just show up over there and say, hey, I'm gonna be there for 3 weeks. You have to pre-schedule. We'll have to come up with some kind of a fee related to that. We have the option of putting the electricity into that person's name to save them a little bit rather than just we gouging them day in, day out. But that's part of the procedure thing. And you know, if we're gonna be making $25-50 off of them a day, I don't know if they need to get you know, most of them probably already have it.
Right.
Anyway, so that's kind of the permit idea that we're floating by you.
Well, I like the permit way better than charging everybody, because everybody's not gonna be using that dock. There are gonna be a lot of smaller boats, you know, be it trollers or gill netters, that won't use it.
And to back that up, just so that you have a reference, we have to, in order to raise about $20,000, it's between $18,000 and $20,000, we have to raise everybody $1 a foot a year. So there you go. If I need to raise, like you say, everybody's gonna have to raise $1 a foot a year.
Better to keep it with the users.
Yeah,
At this point, I mean,
No,
that's
at this
just an
and
option.
it seems
I think that's what
reasonable.
we're hearing from the
That's
assembly as
fair.
well.
I mean,
It's very fair.
Yeah.
it's very fair.
And it's a write-off,
Oh, sure.
as long as everybody's clear about that, it's a write-off,
Okay, I guess we
And
can,
it's
Not
just
for
a
everybody.
start, you know?
if you're commercial.
okay, we can get more into that when we get to the procedures. So now we're down to the
Okay.
transient rate increase.
Okay, so the transient rate increase, it goes kind of hand in hand with the semi-annual mortgage rate. Currently, we are at 50 cents a foot. We tend to in Southeast be a little bit of a pace setter. We tend to, since we are an enterprise fund, which is different than other communities where it's not an enterprise fund, we have to pay our own way. So we've kind of made over the years, you know, Jim did a great job of kind of figuring out what everybody needs to put in the pot to make it work. So these costs have risen. So if you look at the second page, I kind of did a comparison rate just so that you know at what Ann Goom's paying a day, and Craig and Haynes and Juneau and Ketchikan, Sitka, Wrangell. And 65 cents just kind of puts us in the middle. We're not the head of the game like Ketchikan. Well, we'd be close to Ketchikan, but Sitka, they really 3 years ago made a big jump. Wrangell, if you prepay, you get a break. If you don't, then they get you for 80 cents a foot. So 65 cents for us. That back to the prepay thing. For us, that's a little hard because so much of our transient business is commercial, is fishing related, the repeat. We're different than other communities. So we like to have, you know, it would be hard for a guy that's, gosh, I think I'm gonna head north this week, but I didn't know it when I untied, so I didn't prepay, and, you know, that kind of thing. So we're trying to give so we don't tend to gouge them if they don't come in before they pay.
You just
So-
don't want payment in pennies and nickels, do you?
Huh?
You just don't want payment in pennies and
Yeah,
nickels.
yeah, exactly. So that's kind of always been our philosophy in Petersburg. We kind of try and give a little bit of a break to the commercial guys that a lot of times don't get their bills till the end of the season, and, you know, or get paid till the end of the season. So that, anyway, back to the 650, or 65 cents per foot. Again, we'd maintain that $10 to get you the monthly rate, $6.50. So that sets up the transient rate. So 2014, you know, this is the number. I'm trying to capture 50% of that. I'm not shooting for the moon. So I hope to get about $19,000 of addition through that increase.
Any questions on that?
Are we gonna do the whole thing and then, or are we gonna get one out of the way, one out of the way, one out of the way?
Well, we're on this one. The other one, we're gonna have a lot more discussion on the procedures, so that'll be in depth, I think, for the drive down part of it. The transient rate increase, are you looking for an action?
No,
by
I
us?
mean, this is what I'm proposing to the assembly, and that's my rationale behind it, and love to hear what you think.
Seems logical.
One thing on the discussion, you might, on the procedures, once we get through the procedure, you might come back and say, well, maybe we need to tweak this annual permit number or something. I mean, it may come up in discussion when we get down to the nuts and bolts of the procedures, but
Yeah, I think that'll
So you want me
probably
to just
change.
present all these ideas, and then you can kind of,
Yeah, and now we're on the transient rate without going into the procedures. I mean, that's just a cut and dried. That's a rate
transient rate is
increase.
different than
Yeah,
drive down.
so the drive down's we're gonna have to do some discussion on that. And that may change your numbers here a little bit after we discuss it a little bit more. I was kinda hoping that we'd get some boat owners that would come
But does anyone have a problem with that 65 cents transient rate? If not, I
It's
think
not out of the
Glo,
ballpark.
No.
but I think Glo could take that to the assembly.
Yeah, if we, unless somebody has a
But
brilliant
unless
idea on how
someone
to.
thinks,
We got $7 sitting right here.
So you got three different motions to make.
You're over 8
Yeah.
hours.
So why don't we start making motions and get them out of the way? Or you can go back and
Well, we need to.
take them in
we
as a
need-
whole maybe if
We're
you
gonna,
want,
we're
Mike.
gonna do a lot of
Come
talking
back.
about this drive down.
Yeah,
So
drive
we
down
can leave
seven.
that one.
Yeah.
I'm happy to make a motion for the transient rate increase.
Okay, so, well, entertain a motion to adopt the, send the message to the,
Bob made
To
a
the
motion
assembly.
and I seconded it,
okay.
on the
Motion-
transient rate.
Right.
Okay, then what we're looking at is a motion to increase the transient rate to 65 cents per foot as suggested by the harbor master.
So moved.
Okay, so what we want to do here is send this message on to the assembly.
Yeah, they make the
Okay,
decision.
everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, everybody passes unanimously. Okay,
So
so,
now the next one that we're proposing is, okay, if you remember back a few years, we had, there's always the discussion of rates. And we were in the process of pulling a harbor out and building a new harbor. And so when we went through the rate study, the last rate study, which was done 2013, we left the smaller guys alone, okay? We concentrated towards a square footage, and so we hit the big guys pretty hard. The guys that are really, really probably taking the lead on all of this is the 60-footers. We kind of slacked off a little bit on the great big boats, the 100-foot and the 75-footers, but so we really targeted that. The 32s, the 40s, they haven't seen a rate increase now for years, like since 2006. And during all of this, we were gathering information, and I have repeatedly told you that we have quite a few, we've seen a new phenomenon. We have a lot of fellows that are pulling out after a certain amount of time, using it in the summer, and giving their stalls up, and then coming back the next year to grab a stall and fish the season or in pleasure or whatever they're doing. And so we've always said, we got to at some point visit that. Because I maintain that we've built a harbor not for part-time use. If we are like a place like Whittier and we've built a harbor or a section of a harbor, which we have 32-foot stalls that are not 100% full, we've got to raise everybody's rates to accommodate, to plan, schedule for that. Currently, what we do have in place is people launch in the spring, come and get a stall. If you sign a document making you permanent after 3 months, you get the same rate as the guy that maintains an annual moorage, that maintains a stall year-round, regardless of what he does, if he stays there or if he pulls out on the beach.
Just a little clarification.
Okay.
So the first 3 months, when he takes his stall, he gets he signs a declaration that he will be there for
He
3 months, and then he
signs-
begins
no.
immediately.
Yes, he begins immediately.
He begins immediately at this discounted rate.
Yes.
Or at the same
Yes.
rate that the permanent
Yes.
for those first 3 months.
Yeah.
So there's
So
no.
Joe,
okay.
Joe Blow will launch his boat, come in, tell us, yeah, I'm gonna be here till September, and it's May. Okay, he signs the permanent moorage agreement that you signed 47 years ago, you
Mhm.
signed 50 years ago,
Mhm.
and he gets the same rate that you do.
Okay.
That's the way we've rolled, because we've been watching this phenomenon occur. So now I'm going to present to you the idea that perhaps a way to increase usage would be, or perhaps a way to fill those stalls up, perhaps a way to get those people to pay a little bit more of the share of the burden of having these beautiful facilities that are all pretty much brand new now, is to raise that amount. Not as high as the transient, and but a little bit higher than what you're paying. So, middle of the road. So we just said $5. What would $5 a foot for those 1 through 6 months look like? And that's where, what I'd like to shoot for, $5 a foot a month. If you want the opportunity to pay the $2.84 what you're paying a month, and you sign up for an annual, that's your stall, that becomes your permanent stall. And the difference between these people that are paying $5 a foot a month and the transients that are paying $6.50 is they get the benefit to come back to a home at the end of every trip. The electricity is in their name. It's their home while they're in the water. It's their permanent spot while they're in the water. So that's what I'm proposing. I do not feel that it's fair that so-and-so can pull out and then come back whenever they want and get a beautiful first-class stall that I'm gonna have to raise everybody's rates to maintain, to manage, just because nobody's there doesn't mean that we don't have to maintenance it.
Have you done the math on this?
Yes.
I don't see the numbers. What am I looking at here?
Okay, so currently, and where I came up with that $5 is that $5 is a mere 90 or a mere 84 cents higher than what the 100-footer or the 75 guys or the 60-footers are paying. They're already at $4.17. So $5 makes, so if I get a 100-footer, if that comes to town, ties up for 6 months and wants a permanent stall all summer, which we have guys like this. They want to come, they want to be here for 6 months or less, and they want a place that they can come back and forth to, and if I have a place for them, I'd like to give it to them.
Right.
But I don't necessarily think that they should get it for, less than
Kurt?
what you're.
Yeah, and she just brought up the point that I was gonna make. We're not just so that people that are listening, and John specifically, we're not just gonna pick on the people that are hauling out into here. We're talking about everybody,
Oh,
the big
no.
tenders that transfer through here, all the seiners that transfer through here, all the gill netters that transfer through here.
Right.
It's probably a small number of people that actually go out to John's
Yeah.
yard and gets hauled out. So we're not just gonna target this on one little boat. So
And there's a
that's
lot
the
of boats
scope
that-
of what we're targeting on.
Yeah, boats that haul out there, some of them actually pay for their stall year-round
Quite a
regardless.
few of them do.
Yeah, so it's not,
And
it's
that's-
not targeting that.
And is that sort of what you're trying to get them to do then, is to maintain their stall whether or not they haul out?
Okay, not necessarily. What I need to do is I need to raise the revenue, and I'm either gonna have to go to you and raise your rate to cover, because we are literally, our income now matches our expenditures. So I gotta either go to you and raise your rates, or I have to go to others. And right now, your mortgage is maintaining stalls all winter that are not bringing any revenue in. So.
Can you run through this,
Yeah,
your math?
sure.
Okay, I don't understand what I'm looking at.
I down at the bottom, you see that I put the little asterisk.
I'm sorry.
These are the ones that are probably most affected, are the 42s and down, where, and so this is what it would turn in. Currently, okay, let's take you. You're in a 32-foot stall.
Okay.
Your annual mortgage is based on $34 a foot a year.
Okay.
Okay? Which equals out to $90.67 a month.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Or you can break that down by the foot, $2.84.
Okay.
Now, if you were going to come in and get a stall for under 6 months and less, like you were gonna launch, which we have people that do that. We have people come to town in April and pull out in October.
Yep.
You would pay $1.60.
No, $160.
$160.
Yeah,
So $5 a foot.
$160.
A month.
Which breaks down to, so you times that by your 5 months of being in the water, or
Right.
your whatever.
Right,
It's
right,
still less than the annual.
Yeah, it's
It's
less than,
still less
it's less
than the
than
annual,
this.
but
Yeah.
it's more than what we're giving, the deal we're giving them now.
Right,
I guess that's the,
right. Okay, okay, I
and
got it.
where we came up with the 5 is that it's a bit more than what the monthly is. Right now, it's $4.17 for the 60-foot and up.
But it's it's $1.50 less than those people that are just
Yeah.
transient through here by the month.
Exactly.
So,
And again,
it's a
what they
break
get
somewhat.
for that is the ability to call this place home while they're in the water. And they would sign a semi-annual contract,
It was a separate one, a different one.
just that looks a lot like the permanent annual contract,
Right,
rather than
two
just
different
calling us
guys.
up,
yeah, yeah.
just calling us up and saying, hey, I need a spot for 3 days. So,
I mean,
anyway,
mean-
we've been talking about this for years, and so I just, and again, it's not a huge amount. I mean, again, the way I've looked at it, it's probably 35,000, and if we could somehow capture half of that, $18,000, again, it's one less dollar I have to raise your mortgage.
Mhm.
I mean, and I'm saying you because all of you have year-round mortgage.
Yeah, Kurt, do you have something else?
I was just going to say, I mean, are we going to die on that hill on the 5, or have you looked at numbers at 4.5? I mean, sometimes perception, $4.99. People go, oh, it's $4. They don't look at the 99. I mean, do you think this is going to scare people away, or would it feel more comfortable to put that at 4.5? Because then it's slightly more than what I'm paying per month, but yet way more than what Bobby's paying, almost twice what Bobby's paying. What I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at other comparison rates.
Yeah,
You look
yeah.
at Craig,
Okay.
$4.
Well,
You
I'm not-
look
I was
at
just throwing that out there for
James,
discussion.
Just 420,
Yeah.
705. Actually, it's gonna be a tad more because we have to
Mm-hmm.
do sales tax.
I don't think the public's that naive. $5, $4.99. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a penny.
Yeah, I know. You and I are, but that.
Well, I think pretty much
what about
everybody's.
$4.50 or something? I don't know.
We're not a bunch of smooths.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
It's.
I'm paying you around. That's all I want. Just for the record, I'm paying you around for both boats.
I think it's, anyway.
Yep,
so
okay, I
that's-
understand.
That's all these increases add up,
Mm-hmm.
and it brings and generates, we've put some thought into the idea, and I'll address this in our budget review, but if we were to purchase Petro, that we can absorb, the annual lease that we receive in our budget this year, but we also, through these rate increases, we increase the sales tax $3,600, which will now offset the difference in the property tax of the general fund, because the sales tax goes to the general fund off of all harbor activity. So we've done due diligence in that we've thought about their losses. This will help pick up those losses for the general fund that's going to lose if we were to go forth with that Petro project.
So does everybody feel comfortable with $5, or do you think it should be $4.75 or $4.50, or I'm kind of wondering.
For us, it's
Bob?
part of it is just.
I'll make a motion that we stick with.
Bob has something.
I was just
to
gonna-
add.
I just could probably use a little more time to think about it, actually. I mean, it hits those small boats hard, and maybe that's what we're trying to do, because they're hauling out, leaving us kind of holding the bag while they're out of the water all winter, but,
Yeah, if
we
you're
went.
happy to
But-
put their way.
But we did go to a square footage, it's still not nowhere near square footage, I don't think, but it's
Yeah.
closer, but this completely blows that away for those smaller guys, so it really doesn't affect the big boats much, but it has a real big effect on those guys that are currently hauling out, dropping back in.
But the last time we raised it, back when I was there, we hit the big boats hard.
Yeah,
Harder.
But they need it, because most of our improvements have been driven by the big boats, and I think these little boats
We just got
they don't
a brand new
require
harbor.
much.
Yeah.
The little boat's just got a brand new harbor.
Well,
Jeff,
you
did you
squeeze
have
a lot
something?
of them in a small space.
Well, I like the whole idea of this, of what you're doing, but like Bob, I was wondering about the number. But it has to be above 416,
Yeah, I,
or it doesn't mean anything.
or that doesn't mean anything.
Right. So where between 416
Well,
and
we're
$5?
we're between 416 and 650.
Well, well,
Maybe
actually,
we should
you've
go
got
to
$5 here, so I'd say between $5 and 417 or 16. I don't know.
You know, one of the things, oh, I'm sorry.
Not gonna matter a whole lot.
Yeah,
If
650 is
450 is not
your
gonna make
transfer
a
rate.
heck of a lot of difference.
One of the, and I understand that this is a perception issue and a practical issue, but one of the things that needs to be mentioned, and it may not be the smaller boats that are surrounding the drive down, but the smaller boats will be using the crane dock, which is also, we put a bunch of money into, and we're not raising the rates there. I mean, that needs to be understood by everyone.
Well-
We're keeping those rates the same, and that would be a facility that the smaller boats would be using, so.
And I have to point out that you haven't seen a rate increase. Your 40 and low have not seen a rate increase since 2006.
I think 2008, but
Okay.
still a long time. It's still
I
a
mean,
long time.
You haven't seen a rate. It went down. The last rate increase, it went down 9 cents for the small boats. So they haven't seen a rate increase, Bob.
Jeff?
So,
Well,
and they still aren't gonna see a rate increase if they're annual.
talking about the drive down, I'm guessing that small boats will use a drive down if they pay $105 a year.
Yeah,
You bet.
Gilman's.
Dip in there and grab whatever you want to grab.
So we're not
that's a good
talking
deal.
about, go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm just
We're not
saying.
talking about necessarily raising the rates, except if you're a semi-annual mortgage
Right,
person. So
because
it's,
those guys have been lagging behind.
Just the 1 to 6 month.
right,
And it's.
yeah, so
You stay longer than 6 months, nothing changes.
is there gonna be an opportunity to get a prepaid discount on the 6 months?
No,
No,
I agree.
okay, I just checked.
They want, downstairs wants to rule with your 10%.
So
I'm
one-
fighting that battle every day.
One question on your semi-annual contract, do they pick the months? I mean,
Yep.
May through whatever, or April
You bet.
through,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
anytime. They walk in the door and you ask, you ask Mike Schwartz, or are you gonna be, how long you gonna be around? He's gonna say, I wanna come and go from April till August. Okay, well then, you're gonna get charged $5. Okay, and I mean, he'll pencil that out, that's still cheaper than an annual.
Right.
Well,
But the
it's-
rest of the year, that is gonna sit empty.
Yeah.
That stall is sitting empty, and I gotta put thousands of dollars into maintaining that finger float now. I mean, you'll see it on your next year's budget. We got 20,000 set aside for fixing up finger floats on A and B float. So,
Well, this is something we could address too, if we went ahead and adopted this through the assembly, that if it just wasn't working, by the end of the summer, we could
Adjust it.
adjust it, or readdress it, some,
it backfires.
yeah. But I think it's fair. We've been carrying the burden of maintaining
Make a
all those
motion
stalls,
on
and
concept.
so, yeah, if we entertain a motion to adopt
We all like
this-
the concept, right? Or, I mean, no one,
I think so. Is everybody,
How about Bob?
Yeah, just what I think we're really trying to do is, nobody's really saying it, but we're trying to make up for the ones that are hauling out, the small boats that are hauling out locally, kind of leaving a lot of empty spots in our harbor. Maybe that's what we need to do, but that's usually boats a little smaller than me, but it'd be a little bit easier for me to follow if it was related to if it was tied to the the annual rate, like 50% more than the annual rate, rather than that flat rate, because it really has no effect at all on the boats over 60. 70, 80 cents a foot.
Yeah. 'cause
But
they-
those aren't hauling out, those are
Maybe,
leaving.
I just need to think about it a little.
Those are going
Maybe
south.
Maybe we do want to target those boats that, if you want to haul out.
Or you wanna go back to Bellingham.
Right. That's
Yeah,
that's another whole fleet.
Or-
Yeah,
or-
we're
I
gonna-
mean,
That's another
yeah.
motor angle, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it was 50% more, pick a number, say the 40 footers. Be another buck 60.
But
How's-
I'm not
how's that
getting
work?
here, if Bob don't like it, and if we make a motion, he can vote against it.
Right.
But
So it's
as a
here's
board,
perspective.
as a board,
For-
I would like,
460,
I would like to make a
460
motion,
something.
if Bob doesn't,
Yeah,
to
you know.
go along with this. I mean, there's been a lot of thought
It's
put
480.
into this.
Yeah,
Um,
already.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to adopt the semi-annual mortgage rate increased to $5 per foot per month.
I'll second that, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on it? We could vote on it. And
You know, I like it that it's 6 months and not a shorter period of time.
Yeah.
We do have, you know, we got a way to handle
Yeah.
transients and all this other business, you know, and that we do have a lot of guys that are semi-permanent who are gone for less than, the whole troll fleet practically is gone for less than 6 months. And if they want to give up their stall and come back and do it again, it doesn't, and they're only gone for 3 months, it doesn't kick in for those guys. So,
And, you know, I mean, you start talking about boats in this caliber, I mean, you know, it's a $30,000 boat or it's a $50,000 boat, it's not, I mean, these are money-making machines, these are boats. Is $160 really too much to say, bring your boat to Petersburg and welcome home? This is your home to come and go from?
right.
$160, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I put that in perspective. That to me doesn't seem like it's that's property. I mean, that's way less than property tax. That's
Right.
you know, or a lease.
Okay,
of
so
anything
Question.
else.
we have a motion on the floor to adopt this. We've had second, and now we have a question. All those in favor of adopting or sending this potential annual, semi-annual mortgage rate increase to the assembly, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, passes unanimously. Great. Okay, so now we move on to,
Budget review. So I threw that at you just to let you know. I sorry I didn't have it sent out in your first one, but I just had my meeting with the city manager and the finance director and tweaked a few things and back and forth. So what you have before you is what is just essentially what the assembly has. So just to kind of explain, you know, you see these different changes, these rate increases reflected in the mortgage and transient rate. Everything's pretty well. You can see the 13-14 actuals versus, you know, what our proposed are. I think we're looking pretty good. We do have some port leases down because Piston and Rudder gave back a couple of their waterfront leases, as well as Icicle, the little lease they had out off of the trading union parking lot. They let that go. So we're down there.
We do this just like in
Um,
sections, so we have
You
questions.
look at, you know, really our regular pay is staying about online. Of course, benefits are going up, as we all know. Yikes. Everything is pretty well, you know, stands to reason. You can see that we separated the professional services versus the DC lobbyist out, just so that's not all under professional services, because we pitch in for a quarter of the Washington DC lobbyist. And then, so then you get down to that depreciation number, gulp. That's what, you know, of course, the Beanie counters want us to raise rates to put away, which is just pretty much, we'd have to double everything, our income on everything in order to get that money. So down the capital outlays, that's what we go to our savings account for. We're gonna buy the fire department a pump. We're gonna put in another camera, buy a little bit of machinery and equipment. We usually spend about that much. Then we put in the Middle Harbor repairs. I don't anticipating spending a dime on it, but you never know, and I'm sure it'll end up, we may be out some lawyer fees, but we've been working with the insurance company, or we've been working with the tour company who's working with their insurance company, and we've hired P&D to oversee the to oversee that project. So So far, so good on that. The dock ladders, that has been, so if you look down there at the bottom under capital outlays, the dock ladders, that's been a topic. How are we gonna get out of our brand new North Harbor because it's so high out of the water? So we got a couple and we put a few of them around, in the North Harbor.
I saw.
Concentrating on the end, like where the Kestrel is, because we have little kids out there herring fishing, and we put one over by the new fish cleaning station because people will be, you know, a lot more activity around there, and it's higher out of the water. And then we hit a couple other spots in the North Harbor. So we're gonna order, we looked through and we would need about, almost 275 if we put one between every single stall in the entire harbor, which was a bit of a big number. They're $300-400 a piece. So we contacted the outfit that builds them, and they'll give us a little bit of a break if we order 25 of them. So that's what we're gonna shoot for this year. And maybe we can add 25 and just keep adding them all over the harbor, not just concentrate on the North Harbor, because you can't just, you know, have them in one area and not the other. So we're gonna look at all 3 harbors, put them in the high traffic areas, see how they work, and kind of go from there. And maybe every year we can add a few more and kind of keep hitting different parts of the harbor. The best ones we came up with were the stainless steel out of the water style.
How much a piece?
About 300 by the time we get them here. So anyway, so that's that capital outlay. The next one is South Harbor float maintenance. We need bull rails, and we're going to order all of the A and B fingers you've been noticing are dipping further and further and further. I'm quite proud of the North Harbor design. If you remember, we put weight on the ends of those finger floats. So what we're going to do in the future in the North Harbor is just drop those weights as they start to dip, because they're already over
Compensated for flotation.
Yeah, for flotation.
Mhm.
But the old harbors, we have to kind of address that. So that's the number we came up with for that. I've already mentioned a little bit about the North Harbor bulkhead approach. That's just a number. I don't anticipate having to spend that much, but you usually figure a dock is $200 a square foot. Because we had a meeting this morning, he's inventoried what we have. He says, oh my gosh, the stuff that we have sitting out there is more than adequate, probably too beefy for the job. But, so he's gonna use that in his design. So I think we're just gonna be out the construction and the installation costs.
So what's that facility gonna do
Just
for
pretty
us?
much square footage, just.
Platform?
Yeah,
What about the piling? What's that piling that,
yeah, we gotta take it all out.
but we just said adding a piling, you just meant
Well, I just-
replacing?
Go out for
If we're gonna, if we're able to salvage any of that stuff,
Okay.
and they're in position to drive piles,
Yeah,
why not
okay.
just drive a few more and make a larger?
Yeah, okay.
go out further with it, so.
Yeah.
And we'll see, maybe we can afford to do that.
And what's the proposed usage?
To do what we're doing now.
The oil-
We have an oil dumpster that's sitting up on Main Street that I get hammered every week by Melinda Hosted about.
Mhm.
You know, we're taking up valuable parking spots up
Mhm,
there, and that, as well as just, that's where our truck can go instead of taking up more parking down the drive. And it's, you know that we maintain the entire harbor out of that back room, and if all of a sudden I can't get a vehicle, beside it to start taking power washers or our equipment in and out, it's an essential piece of
I think it's a
the
good idea.
facility.
Yeah.
So
So
that'll
we
be,
have to have that.
the deck loading will be in the design, that's
Yeah, it'll be-
considered a medium load deck probably.
It is, but the stuff that we're putting in will make it a high use.
'Cause the
because it's
material's
so
available.
heavy. The materials are so heavy duty that it will actually be.
So
great.
from the old
that'll
drive-down
have to be
dock.
in the design.
Yep, yep. And then the 400 road dredging, I've been working with a fellow that has an electric dredge. And so we've been tossing back and forth since this last summer, idea of bringing him in with a special unit to be able to dredge that 400 row. I've been down there. I mean, it doesn't even take a real low tide anymore, and we're going dry underneath, especially the crane dock ramp of the South Harbor. We got to get some of that material out of there. We qualify for a dredge permit under nationwide permit that the Corps puts in, our behalf, the region's behalf every 5 years. It's more about getting the material out and then where will we take the material. So I've talked to Carl about permitting, stockpiling the mud up there. And the history of that area is it comes back fine to permit it for state property. It's just that our thresholds that we use on the federal side are the Columbia River, and so we never will seem to match that. So we have to take it out of the water. So that'll be the cost of that. So we threw in 120, might be something we can only afford to do half of, or maybe this will cover the whole thing, or maybe we won't even need to spend. I've been talking numbers with the guy, and that's kind of where I got
Is this
to.
threatening the float at all? I mean,
Yeah.
it is?
Yeah.
Have we had any damage yet?
No,
No? But it does
but it's gonna.
bend and,
Yep,
yeah?
it's
Okay.
gonna be soon,
Okay,
so
yeah.
And we
did
have
that.
to remember the
we gotta get.
charged sewer line that's only feet up the beach from where they will be dredging.
Well, that's gonna be out of there when they do this. stuff.
That'll be gone?
That'll be gone.
That'd be huge.
Yeah, that'll be big. So, there's all sorts, I don't know. Anyway, I had to put a number in there, because
Right.
again, this budget is seeing us 18 months from now. So, I know it'll be here before we know it, but it's much easier to go to the assembly and say, hey, we got the money for it set aside, we've got the contract in place, can we go forth with it, rather than, well, where are you gonna get the money for it?
Well,
Yeah, so
I'm
those
not-
are the.
in the middle harbor, you don't have anything down for, nothing there has got cathodical
Yeah,
protection on it.
cannons. Yep.
You got anything in for that, or?
If we don't, this you go around, I am going to probably next year, put it on our,
See, it's getting to be
project.
several years old now,
yep,
and each year,
yeah, definitely time. The last time we, costed that out, it was 170,000 to do those, so I'm sure it's similar.
Kurt?
But yeah, that's definitely on the
Glo, how many more years left on that general obligation bonds for the South?
2021.
2021, okay.
Yep. Right now, I talked to Jody last year about going forth and paying it off because but she said, we're now to the point, this is the last big interest year. We're to the point where we're just paying principal. So it doesn't really make sense to pay it off.
Sure.
If we were gonna save a bunch of money on principal, on
On
interest,
interest,
that'd
yeah.
be one thing, so we're gonna ride that out. But, 2021.
Yeah, it looks like the principal's pretty high now.
So I'm pretty proud of this budget when you look at it, and you kind of figure out where we are. Our operating expenditures plus the debt service, operating and maintenance, day in, day out. Not counting these capital outlays. We're spending about 1.2 million. What we're bringing in with these increases that I've run by you is about 1.23. So we're good, we're to the good about 30,000. I mean, it's pretty good. Now that depreciation number, what we've finally been able to do is apply 100% of our raw fish tax, which I estimate low, at being 400,000 next year. That's gonna go right against that depreciation. We're taking that 400,000 now and putting it right into our savings. Yes, I'm coming to you for these deferred maintenance projects. That's gonna come out of our savings, to the tune of 300. So we're putting in more than we're taking out, but we're addressing that depreciation to
Issue, the
the
issue.
tune of about 400, to about 40%. And I feel pretty good about that because we haven't been able to do that.
And that's kinda like replacement, I mean, that's,
Yeah, repairs,
Yeah, repair,
replacement,
replacement.
and
These
that's
are-
what depreciation
you know,
is all
these are-
about, so we're
Yeah,
trying to address the
And
problem.
these are 50-year items, you know, these are things that get done every, 20 to 50 years. And so, it's a tight budget. I don't know, we go through it with a fine tooth comb, and the assembly always says do better, but I don't know that we can do any better without raising rates.
Kurt?
Just two questions on the very first page there, Glorianne, on the revenues and other sources. The first one is the miscellaneous harbor charges. Where are we deriving that income from?
It comes from the cranes, from the showers, for the grid, the grid's already up.
Power
For
washers.
Power washers, for things like that.
And then the miscellaneous revenues, other revenues, about 5,000 was the proposal. What's that revenue?
Those are, I don't.
Okay, I was just curious. I wondered why that wasn't put underneath miscellaneous, right here, these two.
Yeah.
I was just wondering why those were separate, and if there was two different sources, funding sources,
We
but.
sell things every once in a while. That was probably the sale of
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like
Well,
a
yeah.
piece of equipment.
we put up.
like outboards,
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
it's that
Okay.
kind of stuff,
Okay.
and so that's why that
Snow
number's kind
blowers.
of all
Sure.
over the place.
power washers.
And as well as sell a vehicle.
I would like to point out something, when you go, to the port storage fees that we're collecting for bait sheds and whatnot, that could possibly go up if we're able to secure the bulkhead, because I know if Reed's property sells, all that stuff has to go somewhere, and for one thing, I've got stuff stored there, and I've got to have a place to put it, so that
You mean
drive down
we'll-
approach will be.
We'll see more income.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
only if we're able to secure a place to store that stuff. Right now, we don't have a place to store it if Reed's dock sells. So if we're able to secure even 100 foot of bulkhead along that drive down approach, we'll be able to store and increase that storage fees quite a bit, I think, for some more revenue. At least utilize that giant piece of
Oh,
land.
it is huge, isn't it? When you
Oh, no.
walk on it?
Yeah.
Gee,
Yeah.
Christmas,
You
that's
know what we're
huge.
proposing is the southern side to be used to storage and the northern side parking of that big
Mhm,
2
right,
acres
right,
of fill there. And,
right.
bring it on. I just need a way to get there. Get stuff there. And
Yeah.
right now, you're gonna be, we only have 17 feet of, is what you can bring up the ramp, because that's a 17-foot wide inside to inside. So bait houses gotta come by the road, and
How high is the,
things that are-
the trestle part of the bridge? 6 feet? I haven't walked down.
It's
From
pretty
the, from
tall.
the, from the deck, 10?
I'd say at least 10.
So then Glenn's gonna have to figure out a way to compensate his loss of port storage fees.
Well, no, that won't be your problem, will it,
Yeah,
Glenn?
it won't be as- Anyway, so that's another argument to go move forward with but, the mayor has said, just hold off until this phase is done. And so at completion of this phase, I fully intend to say, okay, it's time to move forward.
Yes. Speaking of the mayor, how secure is, when you put this money into the depreciation fund, how secure is the language that defines that?
I was just thinking that myself.
I mean, if the mayor wanted to buy handcuffs and billy clubs for the police department, would it just disappear?
We'd have to get a vote of the assembly.
He'd have to talk to you first.
No, yeah, he works for the public.
So anybody else have any
Well, they
questions?
gotta, they gotta
doesn't
come
pay
to the
any
board.
attention- he doesn't
Yeah,
pay
but
any
they
attention to
gotta
me.
come to the board.
Okay.
Anything else on the budget? Okay.
Do we gotta approve it or not? I mean, just, can you just say
Assembly will
something?
have to
Yeah, well, I
approve
mean,
it.
but if you guys, vote on this and say you're unanimous on that
Can't you
budget,
say
well,
that we,
somebody make a motion that they approve the budget as it's been submitted.
Sure, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, then I
So
can say you
moved.
guys approve.
Okay, it's been moved
Second.
and seconded to approve the budget presented by the harbor master to move forward to the assembly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. So, on past the budget, now we're down
Yes.
Thanks, John.
to the
Procedures.
So again,
Commercial
this is just a draft, it's pretty loose, but I wanted to get something before you to say, we gotta think about some rules, darn it. Anyway, I, again, got a lot of this off of, what they do in Off Bay, and what they do in Ketchikan, what they do in Sitka, and kinda tried to make it work for us, and, you know, it's not completed, we have, you know, and I don't know if it's one of those kind of moving targets that maybe we have to open it up, but I'd like to have a couple of signs up there that says, you know, this is what you can do right off the bat, and this is what you can't do.
I don't see a time limit for like vehicle parking or how long you can be at the dock, or do we
Well,
even need
I
that?
put it down under allowed uses, I said
Yep.
4-hour time limits and for some front
4 hour
page,
time
but.
limit.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I read this over, Gloria, and having camped outside of the one in Ock Bay for 4 years, this looks great. I think you're on the right.
How
road.
about vehicle parking? So people
Oh,
don't,
upland,
yeah,
upland. Well, currently what's there, what's on the books is 30 days.
okay. So it's kind of already covered.
It's already covered.
Like you said, this is going to be a moving target. You can go ahead and in concept say, yeah, this is workable.
Okay.
But there's going to be, as it
It's gonna need to be
It's
tweaked.
gonna be
Oh,
definitely
gosh.
gonna need to be
Sure.
tweaked, and it's gonna be because there's smarter people out there than me that are gonna try to find the loopholes and duck underneath so. But I think right now, I mean, after watching that one in Juneau all summer long, for 4 years in a row, this looks good.
I think there's gonna be a need for, well, an overnight provision for jobs being done. Like,
Definitely.
that's.
Yeah, yeah.
That was an assumption I was
And
making,
that
that
is
there was.
pre-approval
Yeah.
under here.
Right.
You know,
Second
for
paragraph.
B, it says pre-approval is necessary for long-term repairs, so the harbor office can keep track of usage to prevent user conflicts, that. And then I've addressed it another time, here, shore power is available, long-term power is available. And then, seems like I had it somewhere. I thought I had it in there
Something
somewhere.
about the meters, wasn't it?
Yeah, gosh, maybe I didn't.
I didn't see anything
Okay.
particular to that, but anyway, I thought that might be a consideration that would go along with the long
Space
term.
available, yeah.
Because if you're doing some work on it, and you might not be able to move it every
Sure.
night.
Well, let's talk about it. Under space available, Revdon has, kind of gives parameters, but 260-foot space available with power for long-term work area reservations on the inside. What would be a good number? What would be a good amount? $25 a day, equivalent to transit mileage?
When you look at what these guys are charging per hour, you think about how much it takes John Weekon to get from your boat to the end of Sea Float, and you have burnt an hour
Yeah.
of his time or Eric's time to get there, you know what I mean? So if you could just drive up to a boat down there and bypass everybody except for a handful of seagulls sitting on the dock, to jabber with, you're gonna save money.
Well, and the thing why I guess I want to charge something is that you don't want somebody camping out there.
Yeah, just tie it up. Because the mooring is cheaper.
3 weeks.
Well,
Right.
Couldn't you
Because
make
it's
that,
free.
couldn't you make that fee the same as a transient rate? They're there,
Well-
Does that sound,
I mean, I think
Seems
it's a
fair
fair
enough.
size, a fair price,
Fair enough.
65 cents a foot.
65 cents a
65.
What do you think, Goldie?
times 6.
Well, I'm gonna pass it on to the customer, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what it is.
Well, you wouldn't get
He's,
a charge.
he's gonna get it.
Yeah, you wouldn't get a charge.
Well,
Be the boat owner,
well,
correct?
with a permit fee for the train dog, $100 a year.
Yeah.
We need to go down
Sure.
and use it, which I understood that.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
And so, pretty much I consumed that one because you can't put it on his bill or you can't put it on your bill.
Yeah,
My concern is on the drive down, you want a reservation. Say he bends a boom and calls me at midnight and says, I need this boom repaired tomorrow because the opening is in 2 days. And so I drive down there, but,
We're here 24 hours a day.
yeah, but to get him in that spot or to a spot to accommodate this fella, it may not be available.
Well, you mean the
Well, we'll just
60
have
footers?
to build it.
Yeah.
We'll tie you on the
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah. Yeah, that you can make, yeah, they said in case there's a, where's it?
Extenuating
Unless
yeah.
there's an unforeseen circumstance.
Right,
That's
yeah.
kind of just, kind of a general
See,
statement, you know.
That's some of the things I
Yeah.
see happening during the summer months is somebody, tear up a unit from or whatever, where he comes in short term and says, hey, I need this fixed. That he may not get fixed at the shipwrights or someplace else or working in a stall as he.
Sure, that's why we built this thing.
This was one of the aspects that I didn't think about.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
It's going to make nicer fishermen out of each one of us, isn't it?
I mean-
We're not going to want to be jerks to other guys that we're fishing around, because if you've got a bent boom and you need to get in there and you've got two guys jogging ahead of you, if you're a nice guy, they may say, hey, take my spot, I'll take the next spot. You see what I mean? So I think this is going to turn us all into nicer people. I think this is a great idea.
I got my doubts.
Don't count on it.
Don't count on it, that's right.
What Ole's referred to, we have in place for guys like Ole and Ace Electronics and, all of the guys that are doing business in the harbor, we have a commercial permit that and a lot of times that just, that allows them, Rockies has it. They're guys doing business in the harbor, and it keeps everybody honest, kind of a thing. And so that would be the same. I don't see it charging Ole or anybody any more to use this field than they do today. I don't think that there's going to be any. I don't see any charges to the service provider. I
No,
see
no.
it more as a
The user.
for the
user.
for the
The user.
guy that
Yep.
Right.
But being they have a yearly permit, should you allow them, each person that's using it, a 24 hours at no fee? Or you just,
We'll give them a certain few days, give them a few days maybe?
no?
Just a fee,
Just
I
a
would
fee.
say.
I think,
I'm thinking $50, but,
$50 to use the inside. That would be,
A day?
well, but like Kurt says, you're paying
or just
maybe
transient
$1,000 a
rate,
day
I
or
would think.
I like
$800
the
a
transient
day
rate
for
better
somebody to
than
work on
flat
your stuff.
$50.
Yeah.
Another $50.
Yeah.
That
You got
really
100
saves a lot of
footers,
money.
60
Oh,
footers.
yeah, you can save that 50
You'd have to
bucks.
do it in a transient form in my mind because of the
Yeah.
length.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you.
Or
you
we
adopt-
say
Well-
75 cents a foot, or we say $1 a foot. Which is just kind of like what their one-time use would be. Maybe that's the way to do it. $1 a foot,
A day.
$1. I don't know. Is
Yeah.
that too much?
Do you want to do it
I
by
don't
the
think
foot?
it is, but.
I would.
Yeah,
I mean, it
because
makes sense to me.
Well, I mean, you're not gonna,
Well,
but,
yeah,
but you,
but
but
the
the
footers
space is
is
a
gonna
space
pay
though.
more
I mean, you get
than
a 24
a
footer
60.
in there, you're not gonna,
They
you
should.
get another 24 maybe in there.
Right.
But if you get a 34 footer in there, you're not gonna probably put another 34 footer in there.
Probably not.
So I mean, a space is a space. So maybe it should just be the space.
How much?
Well, that's
Is
what Jeff-
60 feet.
How much?
60
Well,
feet.
that's what I think, but
60 feet.
what's the overlap
60 feet.
allowed?
Oh,
Outside the
Outside
end
the
of the dock.
boat.
Usually we estimate 10 feet. That's what.
That's as far as we can go without interrupting the flow of the traffic.
we're gonna have 10 feet of piling hoop and all this kind of stuff, so maybe we go, I'm sure we're gonna get 80 footers in there.
sure. Because then you could wrap around the piling to hang on
Yeah.
at the stern, or something.
Yeah. I mean, especially, but the other side, you gotta be kind of a little more careful because you got airplanes and stuff like that.
And current blowing you against the.
It would be a
ramp.
simple idea to do the $1 a foot.
Yeah.
And that's the same as a one-time use, but this would be $1 a foot per day that you're there doing
Or
work.
maybe we say if you're I don't know, maybe if you are a permanent customer or permanent resident, it's 50
Year-round
cents
stall
a
owner.
foot.
Yeah.
And if you're non-permanent, like you're coming to town to have something done, it's $1 a foot. You do that based on the people that already have moorage,
I think
they
just
get a break.
Keep it
Make it
simple.
simple.
Keep
Keep
it
it
simple.
simple.
Keep it
I would-
simple.
Same as transient,
Make it
65 cents a foot.
You think?
The one thing that this will do is if you make it, let's say you make it $50 a day or something, it's gonna make these people that are doing vessel repair more prompt. In other words, they're not gonna sit there for 2 days afterwards. They don't wanna pay the fee.
Right.
And if we make it too low, they'll say, it's no rush,
Right,
I'll
right,
just
right,
sit
And
here.
it's just the cost of
and
doing
so-
business. They just,
Right.
that's how they look at it.
But you still have that reservation with the scope of work, and they've got to pretty much
Yeah.
stick to their length they
Yeah.
estimate, right?
Yeah,
50
but
bucks
like
and
Ole
it's simple.
says, I mean, some
Some things
things
happen,
but
yeah.
it's like, oh crap, it's a-
You
Yeah.
say it's gonna take me 10 days.
Right.
15 maybe.
Well, or
Yeah.
you'll end up maybe with a situation where they go over, have Ole look at them, takes a day to get things off, and then they say, I don't need to sit here for 2 weeks while he goes make something or sends off
Sure.
for something, and they come into the harbor and pay, you know. So that's why maybe higher than transient to get them, because if they're paying the same amount that they would be in a stall in the harbor, well, hell, then I'll just stay there and go home to Sitka while Ole works on my stuff. I mean, we get that quite a bit. People bring stuff over here
Good
all
point.
the time to have done by our first class, because, you know, we have,
What is
we have
transit
the
there
best,
from like me?
you know.
That brings up another question.
So
What-
maybe $1 a foot is the way to go.
I don't have any problem with that.
Do we need to consider,
You like a dollar?
say you got a dollar a foot,
Simple.
I think is perfectly
Simple.
I like
Yeah.
I like
sound
just pay for
way
the
to
whole
do
damn
it.
space in the
But what do we do about
$50 a Joe's.
Ole's truck? Do we make him get off every night?
I mean, why would
Or we
why is
allow
your
the
job
equipment
less
that's
expensive than
brought
say
down
my
there to
job?
be left there overnight
still
I
during
would
the
say
project?
that would be part of
Well-
the fee. I don't, you know.
Well, no, I'm not saying a fee, I'm just saying, are we gonna require him to
Move it.
Vacate
move
it.
his
Move it
stuff off at night, or leave it
I
there?
mean, if he wants to trust that it'll be there, I mean, we don't,
I'm just thinking that might be something we'd have to consider.
well, I guess he'd probably
What?
deal with that.
You wanna
I
bring
mean,
it up, Bob, or you
because
want me to
that's
bring it
true, I mean, you'll have
You
stuff
can go
all
ahead and bring it
spread
up. I mean,
out,
I'm
maybe
not,
you'll have a
I'm
little
fine
more
with it.
space.
You know, and, I mean, and $50 is.
I
I would if I
think
were
that
you
was
guys.
to me too, and I think we should probably.
And not leave things hanging around, somebody throw them
No.
overboard.
No.
But you know, if there's a big,
Yeah, but that's
You
his
know, but,
Yeah,
That way you would get a shop
but,
set up.
but whatever.
That's what I'm getting at, we don't want anything in the
way
way,
because
Okay,
of its
okay.
simplicity.
so exit at the evening.
right?
Shop truck up on the dock and then leave it. I mean,
no.
it's pretty easy just to pick up the leads, put them in the truck and take.
Go.
That's what I think.
Even if you put it up in the parking area, but get it off that.
No, we could just simply say, oh, no overnight parking.
Yeah, period.
or
Yeah,
something
But
absolutely.
if you wanna leave a
So-
rolling pole or a boom there, I think it's not hurting any, the water part's full of a boat anyway, so it's not gonna hurt to leave a piece of steel there.
Up against the bow rail.
Yeah, I mean,
But just, I don't think vehicles and that kind of stuff
How
should be
about
left.
no
over-
overnight parking?
That would
Yeah,
work.
Good
That,
thing.
that would work.
Okay.
Kurt,
No, no storage of crap pots.
So I
Yeah,
was
no
just,
storage, no overnight parking, good one.
I would like to just, of course, I don't really have a vote here, but I just want to throw this out here. I mean, I was just, you know, I mean, if Bobby's there with his 34-foot boat, he's going to tie up that 60-foot spot. Why is his project less important dollar-wise than my project at 76 feet? See what I mean? What about just a flat $50 to rent that spot per day if you've got a permanent stall in the harbor? If you don't have a permanent stall in the harbor, then it needs to go up a little bit. You know, transient mortgage fees on top of the $50 per day. So
Okay,
that you just don't park your boat there and sit and go, well, gosh, I'm paying $50, I'm out of here, you know what I mean? So they leave, you know, but they stay there and try to get that job done. I mean, he's gonna tie up that 60 feet with the dock just as much as I'm gonna tie it up. So why should I pay twice as much as he does for the same project?
Good point.
I actually
So-
think you would tie it up less than, I think we've shown we can squeeze in,
you could get two of my boats
yeah.
versus yours, and then I would be paying the same as you. That doesn't make sense.
So I think he's not taking up the whole space necessarily, but I see what you're saying.
Okay, I just thought I wanted to throw that out there. I mean, I do my own work, so it's not really a problem.
48 footer, you're not gonna be able
Yeah,
to get another
exactly.
boat in there.
No, right,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
so.
Yeah, or 42 footer, you're probably not gonna get another one in there because you only got 18 feet left, so
Yeah.
what are you gonna just hang at the stern up,
So
you know what I
we
mean?
charge you
I don't know,
$80 and we charge the 48 footer $48.
yeah, does that make
Is that
sense?
fair?
Yeah,
Dollar
I don't
a
think
foot.
that's fair, because that dock space is being taken up, you know, anyway, it's being utilized. So, what if you just rent that whole dock space at $60 per day, say $1 a foot per day, regardless of what size you are? If you need it, I mean, again, we've already discussed that, you're saving yourself that $60 in the first hour that you're having somebody walk down to your boat, you know, from the walking back and forth, because they're gonna charge you from shop to shop, for the most part.
Yeah.
And then they gotta try to get started, once they get there.
Well, one thing for sure is this is not cast in stone. We
Yeah.
can adjust
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
You know, if we come up with a number or a way to do this and it doesn't make sense in a couple
This has
months.
all got to go to the assembly.
Yeah, right, but, I mean, we can always tweak it, Glenn.
One other comment, what about hot work on this new wood dock pertaining to people that come down and don't have a drive down shop truck? They just pack their stuff down there and throw it out on the dock. Pretty soon they got their vendors and their cutters sitting there.
It's gotta be on the boat, like it is now. You can conduct business in the harbor, but you can't conduct business out of the harbor. I'll explain that to you. Which means that if, like, take Jerry. Jerry comes down to my boat. He's got everything contained that he needs in his bag. So he's bringing his business into the harbor to work with me. Now, if Jerry were to live on his boat and have another boat tied up next to him, and then he works off his boat, now you're conducting business out of the harbor. And there's a state law that says you can't do that, and I think we've adopted that in this harbor. So if you're going to have somebody that's going to come down in a pickup truck and doesn't have a shop truck and wants to do the work on your boat because everybody's too busy to get the job done, all of their equipment needs to come out of the back of their truck. It cannot sit on the dock and be on your vessel like it does now in the harbor. You can't spread out like some people we know and take up the whole harbor, leave aluminum shavings laying everywhere, you know, and then go home for the night.
Well, that's
All the
the point.
materials have to be on
That's
the
the point
vessel,
of his discussion,
contained on
yeah.
the, yeah.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, that's what we already have in the rules now, but whether or not it's enforced is another story.
Well, and that's, that really is truly, rationale behind putting those two workstations to get a lot of this work that you got tarps hung over the main part of the float, because the guy's working on the stern, and, and we allow it, but it'd be so nice to encourage it to go elsewhere.
How does Mike get a flying bridge made for his boat though? I mean, how are they gonna do that on his deck? And it's gotta be done off to the side, I think.
Well, you do it in your shop.
You do it in the
You
shop,
do
right?
Yeah.
patterns. I've seen everybody do them
Yeah.
in their, you know, they take the
I mean,
pattern off your boat.
Same thing's going on at, Joe Short, same type of thing. Mark has been building him a new wheelhouse, and they bring it down and load it on the crane.
I mean, I don't want to point any fingers at, at people that do work in the harbor, but I've gone down in the harbor before and there's material scattered everywhere. I'm tracking aluminum shavings and stuff onto my boat and off my boat because the person's already gone home. I'm having to dodge around their stuff,
Oh, yeah. No,
because they don't have a place where they can work outside of that vessel. So that's what this,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so where we're at now, I'm, if I'm not mistaken here, we're trying to come up with a number for where we're going to be able to allow people to tie up for jobs. Okay. We know there's no parking. That's a no-brainer. Do we go with $1 a foot, or do we do a set
Flat
fee? What do you guys think?
A little higher than the transit. so
$50
go back.
a day.
A flat rate or
Flat rate.
by the foot, those are about the two options.
So do we do transient rate? Is that fair, or
Well-
do we do a flat rate? What's the pleasure?
Flat rate.
Flat rate?
$1 a foot.
I like dollar foot.
I like $1 a foot too. That would be just because it's just simple and it.
It is simple. Flat rate's simple as well, but I think if, it could be utilized by more than
What if
each
you
side
have
to
two
be
boats
more
that
most.
fit and they split the flat rate?
Ooh, that's a dangerous.
But that's getting all complicated.
Is it?
Yeah.
What's our transient rate right now?
60,
65 cents.
yeah.
I mean,
Would
50
would
cents
be.
right now.
65 is our proposed.
Yeah.
So
Dollar.
$1 a foot would be,
I make a motion that we go with $1 a foot.
I second it.
second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt it as $1 per foot per day for using the long-term job site on the drive down. Any discussion?
Is that just the inside or is that the whole
No,
thing?
it's the
Just
inside.
on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
60-foot
Well,
straws on the
unless, like Wooly says, all hell breaks loose and we got 7
Yeah.
guys that are broke down.
Right.
All of a sudden,
But they can go to you and
Yeah.
you can
But
take
it's
care
gotta
of
be-
it.
that's our rate.
And you can take care of it.
And
Right.
you can say you
Right.
can take the north end for,
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for $1 a foot. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, $1 a foot it is.
$1 boat foot.
I have a question for Glo, kind of, now that we've settled that subject. I see it, we're calling it the commercial drive down on the agenda thing, and then we call it the Petersburg drive down facility on the draft, on that deal. But who gets to use this? I mean, we talked about this a little bit, and you said, and I think we talked about the cruise ships, for example. And I thought, oh man, this will be so sweet for them. They'll pull up there in 10 minutes, and poof, off comes all their laundry, and off they go. And you, I think you told me at that time, no, they're not going to be welcome. So who is welcome to use this facility?
who can use it, number one.
I saw it.
Allowable uses, loading and unloading of gear card, by all boats. You know, realistically, we cannot say it's only fishing boats, it's only.
Right.
Well,
Right.
some of the
You know,
money came from,
Well, okay, and where I go with that is that, yes, our first grant was, we know at this table, and now the world knows because it's recorded, that Sarah Palin was able to get us some money, and we hear that came through head tax money, but there were no strings attached. There is nowhere in the grant does it say, this must be a cruise ship dock.
Right.
You know, no, it doesn't say that. So it's for all boats, in my opinion.
Okay.
And if you're willing to pay, great. Now, if you're gonna address the tour ships specifically, other things come into play with those vessels. Homeland Security has mandated us to have specific locations for them. And that has to be outlined in our plan,
Okay.
which we have to update every year. And we have to identify the areas in which they can tie up. So far, this is not an identified area.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that every time, that you'll never see a tour ship there.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that if they're soulless, they have to specifically go to the Petro dock because we have to set up a Homeland Security checkpoint for those particular. Non-soulless, they go through a review at the beginning of the year, and there are areas we can tie them up where our specific spot for them is the bottom of the ramp in the South Harbor at the north end by the crane dock. That's their specific area. Now, in an emergency, the tide's out, that kind of stuff, they give me the ability to tie them up in other areas, like Sea Float. So you'll see the Wilderness Adventure that is a non-soulless, which means that we don't have to set up the checkpoint for them.
Right.
You'll see them every once in a while out at Sea Float because there's all hell's breaking loose at in the loading zone, or the tide is out and they just flat can't get in. You'll also see other smaller passenger vessels out on the north end, the North Harbor, tying up where the Kestrel ties up. That is so maybe there's a time when you'll see tour ships out there, but currently under the scheduled landings, you'll see them in either the Petro where they have to be, or the loading zone in the South Harbor where that's the designated spot.
Okay.
And a lot of that would be to do with Homeland Security. You just can't put them anywhere.
Right, yeah, no, and that's outlined in our plan that we have under review every year. I mean, that's a big deal. They surprise
looks
me
up.
sometime of the year. They walk in the back door and say, spot check. They do
Yep.
it every year. Come in under the cover of darkness, and you gotta lay it out, and you have to have it all, and you have to have gone through every single time that one of these tour ships comes to town. We have to meet them. We have paperwork they fill out, all of that.
I was
Of course,
explained
of course,
twice.
that can all get changed too.
They
It's
can
not,
all
let 'em
get
finish.
changed.
I'm
you
not
know,
going down
and
a
I
different
can
track.
see
Let
where the
'em-
tour
Sure.
the
Yeah.
tour ships
Don't let 'em-
might say, hey, we would like to use that facility
finish
too,
this.
and work to change it.
Oh, yeah,
You
no,
know.
I mean, it's all boats.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to tie
Okay.
up, we're open for business.
okay, Kurt,
Alright.
you had something?
I was going to go down a different avenue. So if you're done, Bob, if you're done,
Yeah,
if you've got
I'm
more
done.
questions,
Yep,
then
yep.
I'm going to let you go if you
No,
want more.
I'm good.
Okay. I was wondering if there was any, if there's any allowances for charity, for, like ADA, people that, have not been out on boats for a while, because they're, crippled, can't walk, whatever, I mean, it seemed like it'd be really hard to go down one of our ramps to get into a boat that somebody wants to take them out for a daily little fishing trip or something. Not every day, but once in, a while. I wonder if there's any allowances for that through the harbor master. If they say, hey, I want to take so-and-so, they can't walk. I want to pull my boat up to that thing, drive the car right next to it, and let them in. Is there going to be some allowances for that? Or are you going to be
You
hard-nosed?
can do it right at the launch
Okay.
ramp right now.
Right now.
Can you do
Right
that?
now, you can.
Well, no, I
just-
mean, we're talking about taking a car right down there so you can
Down to the
help
big
that,
float.
and then boom,
Sure.
right under the big float, and then just into the skid.
Right.
So
I
there'll
would-
be some provision for that.
I don't,
Okay, I just want ADA to know that we're there.
yeah.
No, you're going that day.
I see people doing it all the time. I mean, they might be in a wheelchair, but
Yeah.
They do it all the time.
Okay.
I mean, they do it right now.
But this
They
would
do
be
it
so much
at
more
the-
convenient for
well,
them
they do
because
it
they can drive it right straight.
at the,
crane dock.
at the,
Oh, airplane float?
Airplane
Oh, okay.
How high does that float out of the water? How high does that float out of the water, that big drive down?
Probably gonna be a ways on.
Gonna be on waves.
It's gonna be high.
5
out of the
feet?
water.
6 feet?
It'll be quite
No,
high.
it won't be
Not
that far.
It's
Probably
I
3
think,
feet.
Like, yeah, it's under 36 inches. I think
Oh.
it's 28 inches.
It's gonna be under, I bet it's more than,
8
New
inches.
Hartford.
kind of
28 inches.
like-
So,
But
Probably
that's
pretty
not-
close.
that's
Probably
fine.
pretty close.
That's not a big.
Maybe a little bit more, but
like
not
the
much.
North Harbor.
Well, I can see the drive down being a potential big moneymaker for if the cruise ships came in there and had, you know, we've got a lot of the bicycle people that have they're taking up space in our parking lot. There's buses that, you know, can make money off of taking those people for rides. It'd make it really easy for them.
It is, until you get to the point where you have to put up a Homeland Security
Yep.
deal, and
A
all
checkpoint.
of a
It
sudden,
changes the whole
you can't go over and use that
structure.
facility now.
Yeah.
Just like you
It's
can't
secured.
go use that unless Dell is walking you
Yeah.
from the
Right, I
road
totally
under.
understand that, but there
So-
is potential there for the smaller ones.
Oh, we
that,
didn't
you
even go
know,
down there.
as long as Homeland
The ones that
Security-
aren't Solus.
Right.
Non-soulless, yeah,
Non-soulless.
yeah, there's, yeah, and like I said, I'm not gonna say you're never gonna see it, it's just there this year.
Yeah,
because chances
you're not
are
gonna
it
cover
works
everything
out.
on this
Hey,
draft.
you bet.
You're right, there's
But,
a
you know,
lot
they
of
like,
things to
most
look
of those
at.
people are
for sure.
pedestrians, most
Yeah.
of, they wanna tie up so that their people don't have to walk.
Walk very far. right?
That, you know, once you use that float, that float and you use that ramp, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Right.
I mean, dogs aren't gonna be going down this thing,
Can't-
cause you'll lose
it's a
small
cattle
animals.
trap.
You'll lose small, I mean, you can't walk on it with heels, you can't, I mean, you gotta wear flat
Let's just
tread.
say Hagar's
There's
not going down there anytime soon.
I mean,
I think
yeah,
it's-
it's
Hager's not
a-
going down there
it's not
anytime
a
soon
real-
on its own power.
It's not
Right.
meant for tour ship, I mean, it's a commercial,
Yeah, the ramp is
it's gonna be
tough to
tough.
go in. Okay, so where are we here? We've got the one time, or the dollar per foot squared away.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
is there any other procedures that we need to address?
Well, what about your work? You can't work on your nets there, right?
No.
Yeah, I would say, you know, now, yeah, I would say no, but I'm going to find,
I'm
you
gonna
know,
say,
you
like,
get a
say it's
guy.
in 3 shackles, can I connect them together as I'm pulling them out of my truck? Can I lace them up?
Yeah,
I
right,
mean,
right.
what's loading and
Oh.
unloading?
It'll be a little bit of a, kind of a trial and error. You're gonna get guys down there that wanna put their herring ponds together because we don't have a bulkhead for them to tie up and load them down. They're gonna take the parts and pieces down there and have to put them together, just like they do at the crane dock, cause they can't get them down the highway. We let them put that stuff together. So is there a difference between, yeah, I mean, I think your work maybe has to do by reservation only, or, I mean, I don't know.
There's a time
There's gonna-
constraint
there's
as
gonna be
well.
limits.
4 hour time. I don't think it should be allowed.
I don't either.
Right, but what are you gonna do with the herring pounders? Are we gonna say,
what-
no,
what-
herring pounders aren't welcome in
Well,
here?
what about?
They don't have it now.
What about the
Yeah,
Seiners?
they
Yeah,
though?
we use a crane dock or.
What about the Seiners now, putting a new net
No, no, but
on
they
there?
don't have, the float hasn't been,
They drive a net down.
hasn't
the back of the
existed,
trailer.
so they haven't used it.
But what's gonna
Same difference, I
happen is
think.
they're gonna take their parts and pieces down and put herring pounds together, just like they do at the crane. Because you can't get them down the highway, Jeff. You can't, because, I mean, it's one thing if we had a bulkhead for them to take them up and say, well, that's your problem, cause you could store them in our, cause like Charlie will
We
store
need
his
that
herring
bulkhead
pounds
dock.
Oh, yeah,
in
so this
our-
may just be a temporary inconvenience, I think. I mean, I think if you've got it, if you're gonna come down onto that, you got a brand new seine that you wanna put on, and the crane dock is tied up, you're gonna drive onto that dock with your seine, back your seine boat up to it, take it off your trailer, so what's the difference if Bob, quickly, within his 4-hour limit,
Sticking
corks on is-
do it, don't strip your corks and your leads there, that kind of thing.
I don't
You
know,
know,
I just-
and there's,
But I think there
and-
should be
and
some sort of
we're-
allowance.
We're putting our money where our mouth is. We're building an Alcatraz for the
Yeah.
gill netters that
Yeah.
will be in place here in a month.
Yeah.
You know,
I
we're-
can't get my truck over to Alcatraz.
You're right.
No, but you
But-
could put your bags on your boat and then take them off on Alcatraz and then back into it. I see that.
What about the one that's at the crane dock now? Loading place for gill netters.
Right.
Oh, you mean the one that doesn't really exist?
They got the, they
No,
got
I thought it
those
did.
pipes. They got the
No,
pipes
you
there
guys
over there.
can,
That's, yeah, for
the
seniors.
same-
Is that not good?
It's for seniors.
I don't know.
I think we better be prepared for everything.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen.
And like I say, I think that
Yeah.
we're just gonna have to
Try it, you know.
You're right.
The first time Bob goes down there and
draft.
puts 3 shackles of net together, and it takes him 4.5 hours, and Severson comes up and bangs on Gloria Ann's door or your door or something, you know. I'm not just picking on Mark, I'm just saying, somebody that thinks that they're more important to, you know, they have other things they need to do, and you've been there too long already, well, then we're gonna have to solve this problem, you know what I mean?
Right, and we tried
Sinking
to
in the
put in
mud.
a little bit
Yeah.
here at the top of the ramp, that if you wanna stage stuff, you know, we can do
Yeah.
freight staging. There's-
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we get that a lot, where we'll get somebody that wants, has a lot of stuff going to Agassiz or down the Narrows or something, and they have an AML van coming, and can they park it in the, you know, can they park it in the parking lot up there until they get Glenn underneath, you know, situated, and it might be, you know, 72 hours, or it might be 48 hours or something like that. Well, now, we have freight staging, you know, I mean, you could put crab pots there, you could put lumber, you know, in a van, I guess.
Well, I could also see a van get, you know, backing down on there from AML with Glenny's already there, so that's gonna tie that back up for a little bit, you know. I mean, like I say, you are not gonna be able to plan for every scenario you see coming, so there's gonna have to be a lot of patience and, you know,
Yeah.
you know.
And so many
it'll work.
times, you know, people
It'll work.
do a drive-by and go, "Ugh," and it's like, yeah, okay, here are the extenuating
Yeah.
circumstances.
So we're spinning our wheels here.
Yeah.
So what I
exactly.
think
I
we
would
should
say
do
so.
is.
Yeah, you've already made the major decisions. you
Adopt
can
this
make.
as a guideline,
Yep,
Uh-huh.
yep.
because we're gonna change things as they arise.
We
Problems.
approve it in concept?
The other thing is, Gloria, do we need to write,
Or
sorry, Mike.
Concept. I
Do we
think
need to
that'd
write
be a
down
good
what
thing.
daily power is gonna be? Cause it's 60 amp, 208 3-phase,
It just goes with our daily power. I mean,
which
it's
is same, so it's gonna be the
That
same as
changes.
everywhere.
under the daily rate then, so we don't need to change any language, it's there.
just-
Okay, so does anybody wanna make a motion to accept this as a
I move that we
concept?
accept the draft
Second.
concept.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting this as a draft proposal for a guideline, say aye.
Aye.
Isn't it so exciting that that's what we're talking about?
That we got problems?
This is one thing we do.
Mount-
we do
mounting
get
problems
to set
coming.
policy,
Great
don't
issues
we?
to be talking
Yeah.
about. You're
We don't
absolutely
have
no
to
kidding.
run by the-
Assembly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we could set policy.
Okay, we're down to
You can
communications.
recommend.
But I already started writing.
Hold on, we gotta finish this agenda. We got communications? No communications. Board discussion items. We do have a sea lion that's gone now. That was a good thing.
Died of old age.
Kind
Died of something,
Kinda.
washed up on Bobby Dolan's beach.
I'm thinking maybe,
I thought you were the friend of the Pentecost.
It was over by the Armea Center.
Oh, okay.
It was in the right place for.
Okay. I'd,
maybe
entertain a
bottom
motion
paint
to adjourn.
scrapings or
Make
something.
a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Say that.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, adjourn.
Aye.
You'll hear a lot of this probably